Installing Void, installing the base version of Void was an experiment in trying to see if I could configure and manage a system by myself. Uh, well, not by myself, but just like using guides and reading manuals. And you know what? I could probably do it, but at this point, I got stuck on something and by stuck on something, I mean I didn't really try, which is seat management. Seat management has to be done on an on a run it system with elogin D or seat D, it seems like. And you know, I don't know. I I just didn't want to do it, and it ended up biting me in the ass because I was trying to do it without. So my pulse audio stopped working, and when you're using uh, Wayland on Run It, you have to have, well, when you're using Wayland without System D, or you're using Wayland with System D, then you need to have these seat managers. And from what I understand, you need to have the seat managers on X11 as well. But here's the thing. When I first installed my system and went through the rigmarole of getting stuck on a few simple things, and I'm sure this is actually a simple thing too, and I just don't feel willing to put the time in anymore. I don't know why. Uh, there's also some other reasons. I switched to Manjaro. Manjaro has a community distro that has a fully functional system configured and ready to go with BSP window manager. And I wanted to try that. And you know what? I didn't have X11 set up and configured. I didn't have seat management set up and configured. I wouldn't have to worry about pulse audio if I was using somebody else's functional system. I wanted access, after saying I didn't, I wanted access to the Arch repos, and you know what? The easiest way to do that is to install Arch or install a derivative like Manjaro. And so that's what I did. So what am I working on now? I'm trying to get BSP manager. Like, I'm trying to understand the basics, and to do that, you have to get into shell scripting. And I want to get into shell scripting anyway. I really want to be knowledgeable about basic shell commands like grep and stuff like that, And I want to try using pipes to use all these in conjunction with each other, like, the Unix philosophy. I want to try that. And so I heard about this text editor that's inspired by Vim, which is called Cocoon. And Cocoon lets you use pipes to use these other programs to help you with your editing. So what does that mean? You can also use shell scripts to help you, I thought that the best way to learn the shell, which I've already been learning some stuff about it, but not nearly as much as I should be. Uh, so okay, yeah. So the best way to do that, I think, would probably be using BSP Window Manager, which BSP Window Manager is just a window manager. It relies on the configuration being done with shell scripts and sending it to sort of you send it to this socket that the window manager is watching and takes commands from, and you can send anything in there. You can get really creative with the shell scripts. You don't have to sort of like, let's say, you may have seen my videos about like moving the webcam around on the screen and stuff like that. Well, BSP Window Manager by default has stuff that's more robust and elegant and powerful for that kind of thing. I mean, in the sense that like that script that I had was good, and especially once I sort of debloated it and sort of used like the internal logic of i3 to get it to be like as an elegant script, like as much as I could at the time. So it looked, when I was done with it, it looked pretty nice in my config. It was 3 modes, and the 3 modes each had 18 binds in them. And the 18 binds were, you had a grid that represented a grid of keys on the left side of the keyboard that represented my left monitor, and a grid of keys on the right side to represent my right monitor, and with 9 locations each. You can imagine how that 9 grid would look, moving it around anyway. And then they had 3 modes because the keybind would set the window size to the dimensions that I decided I wanted small, medium, and large to be. And so that was fun. That was a cool thing I did, I think. That kind of manual positioning of floating windows, it's useful, especially in i3. But is it necessary? No. No, it's not. Not really. But now I want to learn more about the shell. So BSP Window Manager. If you wanted to control Window Manager entirely through the shell and shell scripts, then that's your Window Manager. I'm sort of in the preliminary stages of this, which I was at that with i3 maybe a month or 2 ago. I can't remember now, but it's still very new, as you can see, as you can tell. I can't even configure my own system. And today I got dual monitors working, and how I want them to be. When I'm done with this walk and this talk, this walk and talk, I'll go back and I'll set up polybar, which at this point it's my preferred bar. It looks very nice, and it's about as extensible as other bars as far as I can tell, but it looks really nice, and you can style it with CSS, which I've sort of been learning a little bit. if you don't know what I'm actually working on learning besides Linux and sort of Linux workflows, I've been uh, studying like an introduction to web development course on Free Code Camp. And, now that I'm getting into like sort of like refamiliarizing myself with the ideologies of free software, it's like, okay, do I really want to become a web developer? Because I kind of hate it. And so I guess the answer is like, I don't just have to study that. I can study other stuff. I can make a pivot. I, you know, just because I'm learning web dev doesn't mean I can't learn anything else. And say I wanted to learn C. Well, you know what? If I wanted to learn C, then what would be my choice for a window manager? Okay, it would be D window manager, because D window manager is a simple window manager that's written entirely in C, and maybe that's the next step for me, sort of learning a little bit of C by kind of using that and trying to configure it to my liking and stuff like that. But right now, I feel like, and I don't know if that's like an inevitable. I don't think that's like an inevitable path, like I3 to BSPM or DWM or anything like that. But you can see like there's different things that you learn from using these different programs. So what do you learn from using i3? You learn how to edit a config file for i3, and that in turn is sort of a good introduction to editing a config file for really anything else. And then, okay, you've sort of exhausted what i3 can do. Well, I haven't, but you know what? Within the internal logic of i3, I was starting to get there. And so now I want to try these more elegant and robust window managers like BSP window manager. And I don't know, I heard something about there being sort of two types of tiling window managers out there. One being, what was the word they used? I don't think it was automatic, but on the fly. No, that's not right, but sort of, it wasn't manual, right? So, and they put DWM and like awesome WM in those categories, and then they put like BSP WM and i3 in the manual category. And you know what? I don't know if BSP Window Manager belongs in that category, seeing as you can extend it using shell scripts very easily. So what am I saying? I'm back on Manjaro. I'm trying out this app. I don't think I'm actually going to use it that much or continue using it, but or maybe I will, but I don't know. There's this program called Nuclear Player. And it's built in Electron, which, as you all know, That's that's not POSIX compliant, you know. I don't have the most powerful computer, so I'll probably, I'll probably dump it soon, but I've been trying it out and it's cool. And I read the Reddit thread where they were they went on R Linux and said, "Hey, we made this desktop app and it's called Nuclear and it scrapes all these sites that have music that plays, for free, as in beer, play music for free." And so that made a lot of people on Reddit mad because obviously, being Redditors, they have no conception of um, how what's good for the company isn't good for the artist. And they sort of, that was all over the thread, but they weren't really, I don't know, they were taking the corporate side anyway. You know what I mean? Like, you would see people like, "No thanks, I want to support artists." And then you would see artists saying, "Yeah, these SoundCloud and Spotify, they give me uh, at most 60 cents a month." And then they go on to say, "But this is bad because I'm not getting those impressions to get my fractions of a penny." And it makes me want to. The thread was archived. It was released like a year ago or so. And the thing about it was, it really makes me want to say something like, "All right, Mr. Artist, what do you want me to do? Would it make you feel better if I gave you $1 right now?" You know? Would it make you feel better if I gave you a bigger paycheck in a second than you get from Spotify in a year? You know what I mean? So obviously, we can't use these programs that scrape music that's available for free, quote unquote, because it doesn't support the artists. And in the same breath, they're like proving why using this actually doesn't make a difference. It just makes lawyers mad. And, everybody on Reddit is a lawyer. Piracy's bad. Infringing on copyright's bad. So I have been fucking around with this other program, though, that works on top of YouTube Downloader. Sort of, it does everything that, well, you can do everything that it does in YouTube Downloader, but if you use this, then it provides you with a lot of extra utility, but you don't have to set it up. So that's why I'm using it. It's called MPS YouTube or something. So that works with YouTube Downloader and MPlayer, MPV, and you can search YouTube and you can search for albums and it'll find all the songs, and you can, it does all these things, and you can configure it so it can play videos too. You can just use it as a CLI YouTube connection. And so that's obviously a lot more responsive than an Electron app. And like, I get the grievances that people have with Electron, but you got to realize, like, these Electron apps they're for bougie people. They're for people who have a good laptop or a good smartphone or anything like that. Anything where they can spare all the resources that this piece of shit's using up. And it's not the developer's fault. I mean, it is, but it isn't. They chose to use Electron. They could have, done something else, but you know what? Electron's portable. Electron's a piece of shit. They'll get replaced by something else eventually. But Electron's very portable. It runs on everything. It runs in the browser tab. It runs on your Chromium browser that's specifically running just for this one tab. You know? And I'm not saying that web devs shouldn't, use what they know, but should they? Is the web really what we want? And I'm not being all high and mighty about this, honestly. Like, I just literally have a shitty laptop. And it's not that shitty. It's like, it's a Core i5, like, what is it? It's an Ultrabook CPU, back when that was a new thing. The thing that had T440, I've got the i5 in that. And, I open this Electron app and it's very slow, very heavy, Like, it actually plays the music fine, but the interface, it feels like I'm using a shitty web app, That's the thing. And when I'm using a CLI, I don't feel like I'm using a shitty web app. I feel like I'm using, a lot of times, these CLIs, because they have the benefit of not having to do any sort of major graphics. Sometimes they have some simple graphics in the terminal, stuff like that. But that's you can do that in one day, I'm very, very much like open to the idea of the Unix philosophy, and I'm open to the idea of what is it? There's this. Is it a movement? I don't know. It's called Suckless. It's the Unix philosophy, but okay, we lost relay. Let's try to get back to that. Simple, elegant programs that do what they are designed to do, without overreaching their scope too much. And so, I'm trying to use that, but I'm not quite ready to get fully on the Suckless bandwagon. I wouldn't call it a bandwagon. It's more like, it's a philosophy I completely agree with. In some ways, I don't know, like, the people who actually are like developing these things. I assume like Linux is full of Nazis, It's full of dumb smart guys, and what's a dumb smart guy, a dumb smart white guy going to do with his life if he's very highly ignorant, isn't interested in why things are the way they are, and instead sort of leans on scapegoating and misunderstanding things and bigotry. They're going to be a Nazi. There's lots of Nazis in Linux. There are. A lot of them won't say they are. But a lot of them will say that they aren't, And you know what? Linux is something that mostly like nerds use, so nerds are going to be atomized. Nerds are going to be ignorant. Nerds are going to be up their own ass with their hobbies, and that's the problem with a lot of Linux people, is this is their hobby. They aren't using it for philosophical reasons. They're using it because it's better, you know? And that's the kind of Linux user that I think is very prevalent. You know, the open source guys, the ones who aren't like free software guys, you know? And there's something like very corporate and uh, bootlicky about a lot of Linux users, which is, it's something that you wouldn't expect, but they really are just like a cross section of dumb smart guys, you know? All right, that's all for now.